So we have to be very careful in terms of assuming anything with Trump. Just a few months ago, he met with the Altanis, the leaders of Qatar.
The House of Al Thani.
Yes. And after the meeting, he made a remarkable statement. He said that the views of the Altanis and his views were completely the same. They didn't have any daylight between them. Now, I know people want to yell at me and scream at me and say, you're making this up. He would never do. Oh, I'm sorry. He made a public statement. In facts, I'll grant you, are difficult things, but there it is. Everything for Trump is transactional. And when you're talking about money, real money in the Gulf, that's what has his ear. So if we eliminate our enemies over the next 2.5 months, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iranians, possibly the Houthis, possibly the Iraqi Shiite militias, or at least significantly reduce their power, and take Iran off the board, Trump would actually have a very good chance of working out a deal with Saudi Arabia to become another member of the Abraham Accords. What happens with the Palestinians?
With who?
I think with Trump,
the Fakistinians?
The Fakistinians. I think with Trump, he would look at the Saudis and simply say, "Hey guys, the Israelis just demolished your biggest threat, your biggest threat to your existence. I think you can kind of cut them some slack and just enter into the accords with them." A lot of that is also going to involve our own policies towards Yehuda and Shamron, the PA, if you will. And the time is coming when that delusion, that Oslo delusion, has finally got to be purged from our existence. If we could go that far, then and do everything else that we've discussed, there is a very good chance that the Saudis will enter into the Abraham Accords. And that will completely change everything in the Middle East, especially in the absence of Iran. So there's a lot on the table coming up during the next 2.5 months. Some of them will be very scary. The arms embargo, the recognition of a Fakistinian state, sanctions on innocent individuals and organizations in Yehuda and Shamron, a lot of scary things. But we also have a great opportunity to eliminate rather than manage our enemies and to establish a new doctrine in Israel. It's called the Israel First Doctrine, kind of like Trump's America First. Well, this is an Israel First doctrine, basically built on the foundation of what I call a Pax Atomica, an atomic peace. If we actually show the Saudis and the other Gulf states, petro states, that we have the courage to use a weapon over Iran and maybe in Iran, possibly even in Lebanon, then we've convinced them that we are as is called, the strong horse in the region. We're a country that they can rely upon for their own, perhaps their own security, to backstop their own security. There are a lot of things at play right now, and we just have to hope and pray to God that this government that we have here in Jerusalem takes advantage of all the opportunities that will be at our disposal over the next 2.5 months, and not to be afraid of whatever the Biden administration does in their closing days.
Agreed. Jonathan, no argument from me. I can only express the hope, not the conviction, but the hope that Trump and his team will perceive correctly the opportunities and will be willing to be more resolute and more proactive, and will therefore allow for such policies to be implemented, both by themselves and by Israel, which in my view would be entirely in concert with the national interest of the United States and of the entire world, the entire
Correct.
civilized world, I think, because there cannot be any argument as to the fact that the Iranians are the powerhouse and the main financial supporters and drivers of international
Terror.
Islamo-Nazi warfare, terror, you name it, all over the world,
Correct.
on every continent, particularly here in the Middle East, but everywhere.
Right.
If Trump and his people can see this, accept the reality for what it is, and decide once and for all to change the playing field completely, this will be a great blessing for all civilized humanity.
Well, maybe somebody who's watching this podcast can make sure that David Friedman sees it, because he's the one to actually convey these ideas most convincingly and persuasively to Donald Trump. He, as you pointed out,
let us hope that he
it's in his
becomes the
interest
new
as well.
ambassador. Let us hope he becomes the
That
ambassador.
would be the most logical appointment I could imagine. I would like to see him reappointed as the American ambassador, because there's one thing I really wish he would do if he were reappointed, and that's to eliminate a certain office located in the American embassy that serves as a de facto embassy to the PA. That office has to be closed down. It's subversive, it's dangerous, and it undermines the peace and security of our country. That office has to be eliminated.
And of the United States.
Ultimately of the United States as well. They've done everything they can to prevent the implementation of the Taylor Force Act.
Precisely.
And so
in order to fund the Islamo-Nazi
pay for slay.
PA, they had to invent various NGOs like USAID, etc., to funnel funds to these Islamo-Nazis, rather
for humanitarian
because
reasons.
that Taylor Act basically disallowed such funding.
Precisely.
Hopefully, Trump will be made aware of these things if he's not already aware, and will go
act accordingly.
Go for broke, as they say.
Correct.
He's in
Correct.
his last term, no matter what happens. He doesn't have to be re-elected, and anyhow, even if he were up for re-election, I would think it would be to his benefit.
If he could get Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords, which would be facilitated by the actions that the aforementioned actions that we've discussed, his legacy, at least in the Middle East, would be assured. His positive legacy would be assured. So we can only hope that this is what happens.
Well, as the verse states, Lev Malachim b'yad Hashem, the The hearts of rulers and kings are in the hands of Hashem.
Hashem.
May Hashem grant him and his advisors the wisdom to understand and perceive the truth and to put themselves on the right side of human history.